The Guardian of the Heavenly Prison. Chapter 1, Crossing the Heavens. When Gu Zaihu opened his eyes, he was lying on a steel-like stone bed. Overhead are glittering demon-suppressing chains, surrounded by chilling cages and forbidden spells. He crossed over, dressed as the least regarded heavenly prison guard among the 3,000 heavenly soldiers in the heavenly court. Others are either princes and generals, or the reincarnation of the immortal emperor. He Gu Zaihu is good, there is no immortal Zun behind him as a backer, he can't treasure in his hands, and he hasn't even eaten a bite of the elixir. The salary of the heavenly soldiers is meager, 3 spirit stones and 5 caddies of dry food are issued every month, and they have to work in 3 shifts to guard the heinous demons and demons in turn. This is the 19th layer of the heavenly prison, responsible for suppressing the 9-tailed demon queen, the dragon bone venerable, and the thunder messenger who has been stripped of his title. The boss heavenly soldier commander said coldly, "It depends on your luck to survive." Gu Zaihu smiled bitterly, "Are there 5 social insurances and 1 housing fund?" Underscore 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 un. Chapter 2, The First Prisoner of the Town. On the first day of night shift, there was a movement in the depths of the prison. It was a criminal who was once known as the Dharma Protector Bodhisattva, Dragon Bone Venerable, who was deprived of his priesthood and imprisoned for 10,000 years because he planned to betray the heavenly court. Facing the roaring god-level prisoners, Gu Zaihu should have turned around and fled, but due to the intense fear, the spiritual platform vibrated and actually activated the golden finger system attached to his crossing. The Crucible of Nightmare has been activated. Successful suppression for the first time, get the reward, Samadhi True Fire, Beginner. Relying on this wisp of fire, he forcibly sealed the other party's Yuan Shen fragment, and also became the first mortal body in history to suppress a god-level prisoner. All the prisoners in the prison were in awe. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 3, Practicing in Sin. 500 years have passed, and the heavenly court has replaced 3 generations of emperors, and Gu Zaihu has always remained motionless. While others climb up, he is dedicated to being a prison guard, polishing himself in the dark. For each criminal he suppresses, he can obtain supernatural powers, spells, and memory fragments extracted from the other criminal's karma. Over the course of 500 years, he learned Calling the Wind and Rain, from the Siren King. Law Heaven and Earth, from the Heavenly Demon Sect Master. Blood Thunder Knife, from the God of Thunder. Ghost Realm Escape, from Nether General. Under the armor of the heavenly soldiers, he is already a ruthless character that the demons dare not nominate. However, he never showed his strength to the outside world. The nobles of the heavenly court all thought that he was a small soldier who was struggling to survive, and only the big demons in the heavenly prison knew that this prison guard was the one who could not be messed with. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 4, The Jade Emperor's Vision. One day, the heavenly court shook, and His Majesty the Jade Emperor personally drove the heavenly prison, nominally to patrol, but in fact, it was to privately unseal the Chaos Marshal Venerable, an ancient powerhouse who had rebelled. Gu Zaihu blocked in front of the prison door. According to the rules of heaven, the Chaos Marshal Venerable still owes 3,000 years of heavenly punishment, and no one can let him go. The Jade Emperor's voice was cold. "Aren't you afraid that I will punish you for the crime of resisting the decree?" Gu Zaihu smiled, spread his 5 fingers, the Samadhi True Fire surged, and stepped on the lightning. Before the heavenly law, all beings are equal. "Your Majesty, do you want to come in and sit down?" The heavenly palace was furious for a while, but no one dared to take action. From then on, the name of the heavenly prison guardian shocked the 3 realms. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 5, The Prison Breaker Strikes. The remnants of the demon clan quietly gathered, trying to join forces to break through the prison, release the imprisoned patriarchs and demon kings of various factions, and rekindle the fire of the demon world. The 7 Lights Demon Lord, Blood Moon Ancestor, and Phoenix Saint Princess all arrived at the western border of the heavenly court, with 90,000 demon soldiers setting up camps to intimidate the heavenly court. The court was terrified, and no one was willing to descend to the mortal world to meet the enemy. The Jade Emperor gritted his teeth and whispered to the immortal officials on the side, "Send him to help." Gu Zaihu was born alone, without any heavenly soldiers or generals. He charged straight into the demon army with just a sword. The Blood Moon Ancestor roared angrily, "You dare to come here alone, you can't do it yourself." Gu Zaihu said in a deep voice, "I will obey the will of heaven and follow the will of heaven." The First World War was shocking. He used the art of controlling the heavens and the earth to shake 90,000 demon soldiers, and the Samadhi true fire burned down the Seven Stars camp. He eventually killed the Holy Lady of the Underworld Phoenix, captured the Demon Lord alive, and forcibly dragged him into the 10th level of the heavenly prison. Since then, the demon world has been silent, and no one dares to mention the word breaking the prison again. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 6. If you want to become a god, you must first pass him. The Emperor of Heaven is old and intends to appoint the Crown Prince as the heir, but hundreds of immortals are fighting for the throne. In order to stabilize the throne, he decides to hold the god trial. Anyone who wants to become a god must first enter the heavenly prison and pass through 3 levels under Guzaihu's hands. All immortals are afraid it's not a trial, it's a purgatory that will kill you. The first level of the trial, sinful body facing the mirror, to reveal the sins in the heart. The second level, 100 years of repentance, must endure the pain of interrogation in the heavenly prison for 100 years. The third level, 1 battle with the guard, must defeat Guzaihu to be deified. The result? None of the 100,000 participants passed. Guzaihu said coldly to the outside world, if your heart is not right, how can you become a god? Underscore 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 un. Chapter 7. The Return of the Old Man. One day, a woman walked into the prison, wearing a shabby robe, but her eyes were clear. You remember me? She asked. Guzaihu was stunned. That was his only junior sister in the human world, Li Chongqing. She was framed as a demon back then, was beaten into the mortal world by the gods, and was displaced all day long, and after Guzaihu crossed over, there was no chance to find her. Now she is voluntarily imprisoned just to get justice. Do you still believe in the justice of the heavenly court? She asked. Guzaihu lowered his eyes. I don't believe in heavenly court, I only believe in the heavenly strip in my hand. That night, he put her in the 19th floor of the prison and wrote a petition for his resignation as the guard of the prison. Underscore 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 un. Chapter 8. Overthrow and Reinvention. Guzaihu was caught in the vortex of the chaos in the 3 realms. He revealed that the heavenly court was colluding with the Western Buddhist sect, using criminals to atone their sins and become Buddhas and gods, causing the order of the 3 realms to collapse. The 3 worlds of immortals, demons, and Buddhas gathered, and he was on the top of the sea of clouds, holding high the scroll of the heavenly strip, and shouted. Today, I sacrifice the sins of the 3 realms and recast new heavenly laws. That night, the heaven and earth changed drastically, the throne of God was shattered, and the 33 heavens were dark. Guzaihu, in the name of Pingtianho, built a prison again, opened up the mutual trial of mortal immortals, and sealed the gods no longer based on blood, but on behavior. He is not a god, nor an immortal, but just a law-abiding person. Chapter 9. Letter from the Underworld. Thousands of years after the recasting of the heavenly law, Guzaihu no longer guards the heavenly prison, and is replaced by the Pingtian judge who comes from all races in the 3 realms and has been selected through trials. He himself lives in seclusion in the Wuji mountain outside the sky, burying himself in the files of the 3 realms, sometimes personally trying serious cases, and sometimes giving lectures and preaching. On this day, he was making tea in the pine cliff, and the crane came from the clouds, and brought a black and gold sealed letter, engraved with 6 characters on it. 9 unjust cases, please try. He raised his eyebrows slightly, and the letter came from the underworld. 9 ghost cases. Since the reshaping of the heavenly strip, the underworld and the heavenly court are peaceful on the surface, but secretly there are turbulent waves. The judge of the underworld, Heisiju, reported, within a month, hundreds of ghosts were unable to return to their places, their spirit platforms were broken, and their 3 souls were incomplete. These ghosts all came from north of the Wangchuan River, a place of ruins that had been sealed long ago. When Guzaihu heard the news, he muttered, Ruin Yuan. Isn't that the fiefdom that Li Chongqing was broken into back then? He immediately took the spiritual cloud to the underworld to visit Lethe, but he was shocked to find that the Taisha tower that originally sealed the ruins had been shattered, and the souls were surging and the miasma was monstrous. The underworld's palm, the Hades king, said in a trembling voice, we can't suppress it. It's not just ghosts in the ruins. Before he could finish speaking, a dark shadow appeared from the void, and it was ancient sinful spirit, Dream. This person was originally an ancient god. He was besieged by the gods because he attempted to recast the 6 reincarnations and enslave mortal souls. He was eventually stripped of his godhood and sealed for 10,000 years. Now, he broke the seal from the abyss, his eyes spanning the 6 realms, and said only one sentence. Tenjo is just another kind of shackle. I will fulfill the equality you want. Chapter 10, The Change of Li Chongqing. After Jishu appeared, Gu Ziyu immediately noticed that the aura had become chaotic. When I returned to Wuji Mountain, I found that Li Chongqing was no longer in the mountains, leaving a handwritten letter. She volunteered to go to the ruins to investigate the case in depth, and there was only one sentence at the end of the letter. If I can't come back, destroy me. Gu Ziyu clenched the letter paper, and the true fire of samadhi flashed in his palm, but in the end, it was not burned at all, and he only raised his eyes to look at the sky. At that moment, a familiar system voice suddenly sounded. Warning, the sin furnace has been detected for the intervention of the ruin outer channel. Do you reopen the trial mode, 9 layers of heavenly prison? He slowly raised his hand and pressed confirm. Chapter 11, Hell opens the door. Heavenly Hell is the final system that Gu Ziyu has never activated. Once it is opened, it will interrogate gods, Buddhas and demons indiscriminately, even if the object is the old god and the sage who has ascended to heaven, there is no immunity. He summoned 100 judges and announced in the square of the recast heaven. In the rebellion, there are more than 3,000 people involved in the crime, including the elders of the Protoss, the rulers of the immortal realm, the envoys of the underworld, and even some of the saints of the mortal realm. From today on, the 9th level of the heavenly prison will be opened. All those convicted will be registered and no one will be pardoned. The debate boiled, and Shen Xian's tremor was astonished. This move is like digging through old accounts, allowing the dark curtains of the heavenly realm that have been hidden for thousands of years to surface one by one. Someone shouted angrily, You want to judge the 3 realms? Who do you think you are? Gu Ziyu remained calm and replied coldly, I am a prison keeper. I will judge anyone who breaks the law. Chapter 12, The God of First Judgment. The first person to be tried in the heavenly prison was the once famous master Suandeo, Han Yun. This person had presided over the cultivation of the heavenly realm law code, and he was also one of Gu Ziyu's masters, and he had already ascended to the void realm. Now, he is accused of private wheel circumference transportation soul power. Cast a false god spell for Jishu. Tampered with the ancient rules of heaven and suppressed many unjust cases. All the officials in the heavenly palace were afraid and dared not speak out. Gu Ziyu personally imprisoned him and asked on the public interrogation platform. You taught me to enforce the law impartially in the past, but now you have become the culprit. Han Yun, do you regret it? Han Yun closed his eyes and remained silent for a long time before whispering. I regret it. I regret that I didn't kill you sooner. As soon as the words fell, Gu Ziyu sealed his divine yuan with one palm and threw it into the 2nd layer of the heavenly prison. From then on, the gate of heaven will no longer be closed to anyone. Chapter 13, The Choice of Destiny. In the abyss, Sisu walked slowly among thousands of souls, dressed in a black robe, his eyes like a furnace of stardust. Li Chongqing knelt down in front of him, covered in bruises, but he still didn't give up. Jishu looked at her and asked lightly, Do you know that Gu Ziyu will come to save you? She gritted her teeth and vomited. Blood, if he comes. Judgment will come with it. Do you believe in him like that? She raised her head, her bloody eyes resolute, It's not faith, it's only he can be trusted. Jishu smiled and reached out to her heart, Then I will take this letter so that you can no longer hold on. Outside the sky, Gu Ziyu was furious, and with a palm in the air, he shattered the Hunyuan void realm. He finally activated the deepest part of the heavenly hell, carried the furnace of sin, wore the broken heavenly armor, and stepped into the ruins. Hello, let her go. Otherwise. Today, I have come not only to judge you, but also to destroy you. Chapter 14, The Coming of Heaven. Gu Ziyu, wearing the heaven-breaking armor, descended from the sky. The aura of the abyss avoided him for 3 feet, and the wailing of all souls was as quiet as cicadas. The heaven-breaking armor was made of the iron of the 6 paths and the bones of cause and effect in the past. Once this armor is unveiled, it means that the Lord of Judgment has come in person, and the land that is not pardoned by the heavenly law will also be subject to the law. Standing in front of the 9 souls altar, thousands of bones dancing behind him, like a sea of blood waves. He sneered, Do you really plan to judge me with the power of one person? Gu Ziyu looked calm, but his words were thunderous. I'm not alone, the heavens are in me, and the 3 realms are on my side. The void behind him split open, and golden talismans flew out. These were the seals to open the 9 layers of heavenly prison. First instance, Soul Seal. Second instance, Past Reflections. Third trial, Obsession Oath. Fourth instance, The Chain of Cause and Effect. Fifth trial, Balance of Fate. Sixth trial, 6 Ways Are True. Seventh trial, Mystery and Conscience. Eighth trial, Heavenly Lore Reflects. Ninth trial, The Deliberations of the Gods. A hint of coldness flashed across Sisu's eyes, and he raised his hand and said, "Gods? They are all dead." The air was cold, the phantoms overlapped, and the summoning seal of the old gods was used. Suddenly, the ancient gods who had long been forgotten by the three realms appeared one after another, wearing golden armor and holding ancient weapons, surrounding Gu Xiu. At this moment, Li Chongqing woke up from his coma and was horrified when he saw this scene. Those. Is it a fragment of the consciousness of the primeval gods? And thou wilt use Reaper's Soul Tower. Gu Xiu also felt a pang in his heart, and understood that this trial was not only a trial, but also an interrogation of the belief system of the three realms in the past 10,000 years. Chapter 15, The Dawn Trial. Gu Xiu forcefully opens the sixth trial of 6 paths to true resurrection in heavenly prison, using his own body as a tool to reverse the flow of cause and effect. The 6 origins flow in the palm of his hand, the light and shadow change, and the serious cases of the past dynasties are displayed in order, from the slaughter of a village in the mortal world, to the sacrifice of the fairy world, and then to the closed door lock seal of the Buddha world. After revealing them one by one, the gods looked uncertain, but Sisu laughed. "How much did you uncover? Can you judge all the gods?" Gu Xiu raised his eyes to look at him and replied. "As long as you are a sinner, you will be judged." This sentence is like thunder. He suddenly drew his sword, the sharp blade broke through the clouds, and slashed down the heavenly prison seal. Before the seal fell, Li Chongqing suddenly stepped forward and held his hand tightly. "No, you can't kill him, at least not now." Gu Xiu was stunned. Li Chongqing's eyes were clear, the seal in his body. "And my brother's sense?" "Gu Xiu, your brother?" "Yes. He is the Lord of the Ruins who was framed and died, Li Yuquan." This is the new clue. The rebellion of Sisu was perhaps not the mastermind, but the fuse. The real fire is buried in the bloodline and fate of the Protoss before the writing of the heavenly strip. Chapter 16, The Judgment of the Gods. Gu Xiu announced the official opening of the 9th trial of heavenly prison. The souls of the gods were summoned and reappeared on the altar of judgment on the cloud. On this day, all those with the name of gods must go to the trial. The three realms were shaken, the king of gods retreated, the Buddha appeared, and the Taoist stepped out from the hidden mountain. Before the heavens, there was no word. Sisu knelt at the trial platform, his divinity completely gone, with a smile on his face. "How? If you judge me, the three realms will be really peaceful." Gu Xiu stood up and looked at the many gods and thousands of mortal souls under the sea of clouds. "No, the three realms have never been peaceful. But what I want today is not peace, but liquidation." The words fell, and the heavenly hell thunder punishment descended into the world. The godhead of the dream was sold and sent to reincarnation, and it was repaired for 100 generations. Above the altar, the list of gods automatically turned pages, reflecting the gods who had not yet been judged. There were still 72 names of gods, flickering and unclear. This represents. This trial has just begun. Chapter 17, Epilogue, a new chapter. The interrogation paused, and Gu Xiu looked back at Li Chongqing. She looked pale and weak, but she was still smiling. He walked over, embraced her into his arms, and said only one word. "I said that before the heavenly rules, all beings were equal." She replied, "What about you?" He whispered, "I. Not of all beings, I am your person." A few months later, Gu Xiu sealed up his sword and retired, leaving the heavenly prison judge to fend for himself. Li Chongqing also traveled in the mortal world, searching for the names of lost gods, and establishing a true Pingtian law for the new era. And above the sky, a pair of eyes slowly opened. The Shinzingamai has not finished yet. Heavenly Prison Guards 2, The Book of Rebellion. Prologue, The Testament of the Gods. 100 days after the pacification of Suyuan, the God clan has not yet been rebuilt, but the mortal world is in turmoil. In the north of Chang'an, a child woke up in the middle of the night and murmured, "The sky is falling." This word spread, alarming the master of Fulong Temple, Bai Wangchen. He read the stars at night and found that the star tracks were in chaos, the divine power was transferred, and the three realms had lost their master. The Emperor of Heaven disappeared, the Buddha was in seclusion, and the Taoist was in hiding. The only thing to maintain order was the unfinished book, the Book of Reverse God. This book records, if the divine law is wrong, the reverse judge must reverse the divine law and make it the divine law. But there are 3 books of the anti-god. Volume 1, The Old Gods. Volume 2, Interrogation of the Gods. Volume 3, No Law. Now, only one of the volumes is alive, hidden in the land of the ruins. Chapter 1, The Eve of the Expedition. Inside the Chang'an Divine Law Department. Gu Ziyu reappeared after 5 months, his white clothes were unsealed, his sword was hidden behind his waist, and his eyebrows were cold. Li Chongqing put on the ring of reverse trial for him, one ring of responsibility, and the other of breaking love. Are you really leaving? She asked. He nodded. This is what I owe to the divine realm, and I owe it to you. Li Chongqing looked at him and handed him a yellowed ancient book. This is the suicide note left by my brother. Maybe it can help you survive in the ruins. Gu Ziyu took it and turned to leave. Amidst the wind and snow, his figure disappeared in the northern border of Chang'an and headed towards Shangsu. Chapter 2, Trial of the Divine Ruins. The land of God's ruins is called the wasteland of the 3 realms. There are no gods to reside, no way to follow, and only growth against one's will. The first moment Gu Ziyu stepped in, he fell into the illusion of overlapping time. He saw himself 500 years ago. He was just a small heavenly soldier, timid and afraid, holding a wooden sword. In the illusion, he asked, "Why are you so stubborn? Obviously, you can hide." Gu Ziyu replied, "If I hide, then no one will remember that we existed." The words fell, the illusion shattered, and he passed the first soul trial of the divine ruins. This is followed by administrative trial and emotional trial. Each of them is an excavation of his own heart, and even forces him to face the choices he once dared not love, hate, or rebellious. Eventually, he found the page at the core of the ruins. Book of Rebellion Against God, Volume 1, Old God Record. On the page, it was clearly stated, Li Yuxuan is not dead. Chapter 3, The Hidden God Bureau. Returning to Chang'an, Gu Ziyu broke into the old treasury of the Divine Law Division at night, flipped through the Divine Oath tablet, and confirmed the words of the fragment. The inscription on the stele hides an ancient saying, if Li Jun has not entered reincarnation, the judge will be transferred. He suddenly realized. At that time, Li Yuxuan not only did not die, but even sealed his divine position and entrusted it to Gu Ziyu to rewrite the future trial. Gu Ziyu has long been the bone of the true God, but he just doesn't know it. Chapter 4, Gods Back and Gods Rise. While he was exploring, there was turmoil in the 3 realms. The dragon god of Zizhu broke his oath and rebelled. An ownerless sky appeared in the 9th heaven and a large number of unknown gods escaped from the ruins of gods. They call themselves the old gods and want to rebuild the divine realm without being bound by the laws of heaven. Gu Ziyu understood that the Book of Reverse Gods was the last anchor point of order in the 3 realms, and it could not fall into the hands of the old gods. But he also knew that God was not perfect. He had to complete the 2nd volume, The Divine Question, in search of a true new system of law. Chapter 5, The Return of Li Yuxuan. At this time, Li Chongqing suddenly disappeared. Gu Ziyu searched all the way to the Forgotten Dust Lake, and saw a black shadow appearing in the lake. The man's features resembled Li Chongqing's, but his aura was as intimidating as that of a god. Li Yuxuan. Gu Ziyu holds the sword. The other man spoke slowly, "You finally found me." It turned out that Li Yuxuan was not killed, but self-sleeping into the sea of consciousness of the 10,000 worlds, looking for a way to reconstruct the divine law, but was sealed to this day. And he woke up because Gu Ziyu had already proved the position of reverse trial. Li Yuxuan said in a deep voice. "You are the last blade of judgment that I left in the 3 realms." Chapter 6, Reconstruction and Rupture. Gu Ziyu handed over the fragment to Li Yuxuan, and the two worked together to deduce the new divine law and compile the 2nd volume of the Book of Reverse Gods. But the two eventually had a major disagreement. Li Yuxuan advocates that the 3 realms should be deified so that all things can be judged equally, regardless of their status. Gu Ziyu advocated that God should still be responsible, but he should return to protect, not rule. "You're so kind, you'll have a dream again. You're too extreme, you're going to be your hated self again." The 2 men pointed their swords at each other, and a battle was inevitable. Chapter 7, Revisiting the Divine Realm, I. 3 days later, Gu Ziyu ascended to the altar of the 3 realms and opened the 2nd judgment of all gods. This time, it is not one person who will be judged, but the entire divine realm system. On the forum, the God King, Buddha, and Taoist lords gathered together. Gu Ziyu said loudly. "You have spent 10,000 years establishing order and protecting the people. What I am asking today is not to overthrow, but to prove that you are not worthy of the 3 realms." As soon as this trial opened, the divine soul fought again, and the 3 realms' heavenly map trembled. Chapter 8, Revisiting the Divine Realm, Part 2. In the forum of the 3 realms, all the gods bowed their heads and the old laws were shaken. Gu Ziyu stood in the position of the reverse trial, holding the Reverse God Book, Volume 2, his eyes were as cold as a frost blade. He spoke word by word, and his voice shook the entire heavens. We, the heavenly soldiers, have been slaves for 1,000 years, you, the God Kings, have been respected for 10,000 years. Today I ask one question, is this order in line with the way of heaven? On the forum, the 4 ancient gods were silent. The Emperor Wu Yuan spoke first, if there is no order of gods, how can mortal spirits withstand the rampage of demons? Gu Ziyu sneered, then have you ever asked mortal spirits, are they willing to be enslaved by demons, or are they dominated by divine power such as you? He opened the second volume of Interrogating the Divine Question, pointed out the contradictions in the 99 articles of the heavenly statute of the past dynasties, and read them one by one. 1 year, 8 people slew demons and became gods. In the same year, those who broke the heavenly order to protect mortals were banished to the netherworld. 100 years later, the demon emperor burned thousands of miles of human kingdoms and was named the ancestor of Buddhism. It's not order, it's a deal. It's a divine bureau with spiritual life as a bargaining chip. There was silence. At this time, Li Yuquan, who had been beside him, slowly got up and walked into the forum, with a low tone. He's right. The gods were shocked. You're shine on the emperor. I was, but I am the source of this judgment. 500 years ago, I saw all the vanity of the divine law, so I chose to fake death and enter the ruins, laying out today's situation. Gu Ziyu and I were originally people of the same principle. It's just that now, I've chosen to completely clear the divine order starting from scratch. After finishing speaking, a scroll of divine pictures flew out of his sleeve, and it was the legendary Lost Anti-God Book, Volume 3, No Law. That's the final judgment that can erase the divine position and reshape the rules of the 3 realms. Chapter 9, The Day of the Burning of the Law. When the intolerable law appeared, the 3 realms' heavenly strip trembled violently. Countless divine positions began to disintegrate, cracks appeared in the heavenly palace, the golden lotus of the Buddha realm withered, and the holy seal of the Dao sect was blurred. He's going to wipe out the divine realm. Bai Wangchen shouted. Gu Ziyu looked at Li Yuquan, his eyes revealing sadness. It's not you. Li Yuquan sneered, Gu Ziyu, I will build a new order for the 3 realms for 10,000 years, you are delusional in trying to mend the defects with half a book, and you are wrong. No, I've seen the eyes of mortals dying with hatred, and I've seen the demon clan's choice to sacrifice their lives out of love. I believe they deserve a better god, not a colder law. Li Yuquan's no law in his hand ignited a divine fire, surrounded the entire altar, and he shouted, then you will stop me. Gu Ziyu drew his sword. It was the sword that Li Yuquan had forged for him, Wenlu. The 2 of them said nothing more, the sword energy rose up, and all the gods avoided it. This is the final showdown between the old gods and the new judgment. Chapter 10, 2 People and 1 Sword. After 3 days and 3 nights of fierce fighting, the sky was torn into pieces and the stars were out of place. Gu Ziyu fell down again and again, and stood up again and again. He didn't kill Li Yuquan, he just wanted to bring him back. You said that there should be no gods in power, so how can you claim to be the Lord of God's judgment? You said that the laws of God are false, so how can you destroy all good laws? You say that you are my teacher and my friend, so how can you bear to let me cut you off with my own hands? Every question is a question for him, but also for himself. Li Yuquan finally revealed his flaws, and the sword blade stopped in front of Gu Ziyu's eyebrows, but he couldn't cut it down. You won. The intolerable law turned into a phantom in the fire. Gu Ziyu caught it, sealed it into the book of Against the Gods, and slowly closed his eyes. It's not me who wins, it's that we all lose. Chapter 11, The Beginning of the New Law. 3 years later. The new realm of gods was established, Gu Ziyu implemented the new law of anti-gods, the old gods retreated to discuss and judge, mortal spirits could redress grievances, demons could prove their truth, and heavenly soldiers were honored. Li Yuquan was voluntarily imprisoned in the floating heart prison, and repaired the destroyed order of the 3 realms in the 10,000 volumes of heavenly books every day. Li Chongqing took over as the head of the Divine Law Department and set up the Anti-God Hall, where all spirits could ask the gods in person, and the gods also had to prove their duties. Gu Ziyu lived in seclusion in Chang'an, and every day he talked about the new laws and the mistakes of the old gods in the academy, and every word was recorded in the Anti-God book. It's called Asking the Heart. Final chapter, The Monument of the Heavenly Prison. One night, in the floating heart prison, Li Yuquan flipped through the inquiry record and found a new paragraph on the last page. You ask me if I regret being your enemy? No, I just regret that I couldn't say it later. I worship you as a god, but I want to be a demon for you. He quietly closed the page and looked up at the sky. With you in the 3 realms, there is no need for a god king.